Good morning. Checking back in with you. Today I want to speak to you a little bit about the midterm that you took. I'm not going to go over it in super detail. You don't have the test in front of you. It was problematic to scan it to you. But I wanted to give you some ideas where things maybe ran amok and let you know that there will be a final, same format, multiple choice, 50 questions, 50 points. And just to make it clear, the actual points you'll have from here on out include the midterm, or the final, I'm sorry, it's 50 points. Critical response, which we'll be launching very soon. You'll get a video on that, a few after this. And there will be a critical analysis, which is quite complex and requires careful attention to the concepts in the book. So that's where we're heading. That's how many points you still have left out. This is history, but I want to go over it for two reasons. One is there are some concepts that do carry over. The final is not cumulative. It's on chapter 6 and 7, basically. There's a little bit in chapter 5 we'll go over in just a bit because that's reflected in the critical analysis and everyday life. But I want to let you know how you did on the test and the midterm so that you can learn from it, hopefully. I'll just be honest with you. I've done this for a long time, and I had a lack of motivation this semester and gave you the exact same test that I gave the preceding semester. So I have a baseline of data, and overall across my 3 sections, this was the worst set of tests I've ever received. I don't think it's something that I did in delivering instruction, however, because I did have some high scores. Just so that you know, the score that's reflected, it's a 50-point score. And if you double it, that'll give you a percentage. But I had people who did quite well. I had a person with a 99, a 98, and a 97. Okay, those people, I just looked at it and I said, okay, I make mistakes. I had a record of what were most wrong, and I'll be going over that in a minute. But I did that, and I realized maybe I should curve a little bit. So everybody had 3 points. You wound up with a few people actually having more than 100%. Like I had one guy with a 52, one with a 51. So that's the story there. This is the breakdown. Remember, A's, B's, and C's are a little different here. It's just a reminder. 92 is an A, 83 is a B, 75 is a C. And I didn't make that scale. It's just the way it is. But it was odd. I had, of the people taking the exam, I had 3 A's. I had 8 B's. I had 9 C's and 22 that were below 36 or fewer points out of the 50. Some went quite low, and I found that a bit distressing. But I'm just saying, okay, I think you had very detailed review materials. I don't think it was the instruction because, like I said, I had a number of really high scores. I don't think it was unfair. I'm hoping you can rise to the occasion on the final, which, just to give you a heads up, Chapter 7 is rather challenging when we get into logic. But I want to go over some of these items with you. This is the exam here that is up, and I'm just going to go over some of them because I'm not going to do the whole test. But A was C, and you can look at this later if you want. It's the beauty of film. But 2 was B, 3 was D, 4 is A, and 5 was a little bit of a problem. 13 out of the people who took the test out of the 43 didn't get that. Non-overlapping magisteria is a concept you should know, and it's that religion and science have different areas that they can speak to, different areas that they're able to address. So that's what that means. Inference is B. Drawing conclusions from available information. Correlation, we'll be getting to, it's not cumulative, the final, but we do discuss correlation later on. And then you have correlation as 2 variables increase in parallel. One doesn't cause the other. Of these items, the most likely to indicate only correlation and not causation was A. Areas with high air pollution, there are more sexually transmitted diseases. They correlate. If there's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of STDs, but in this, you can't say that the pollution is causing it. That's what I was getting at there. Number 9, being a critical thinker in the weak sense means A, thinking critically about information only when you want it to be false. And then 10 is A. This is starting with a conclusion and looking for evidence to prove it's true is called 10 is rationalizing. That's D. 11 goes along with it. If you rationalize, you will be practicing A, which is confirmation bias, paying attention only to evidence that supports your belief. 12, believing that something is more likely to be true because you want it to be true is wishful thinking. Virtually everyone did get that. Don't practice wishful thinking with the midterm or with the final or with your success in this class. 13, believing the negative behavior of others is a result of their personalities while their own negative behavior is a result of circumstances is called attribution mistake A. 14, believing what is popular is an example of deconformity. Most of you got that as well. Thank you. 15, a person who is against gun control and rejects statistics showing that countries with fewer guns have fewer murders is demonstrating C, denial. 16, Northrop Frye said that Don't You Think It's Time to Start Thinking? Thinking is D, articulating ideas until they're in the right words. And that's a view of thinking you don't have to agree with. I don't. I think thinking's bigger than that, but that was his definition. Number 17, according to Frye, the main benefit of having an articulate society is B. Citizens can overthrow the power structure, present power structure. We see that in order to dominate, I don't care if it's a democracy or it's a totalitarian government, people tend to manipulate others, the people that don't have power, because they're not articulate. They're not able to really poke into what's being said, and they just kind of nod their heads when somebody gives them a cliche and believe it's true rather than asking for a more articulate explanation of a view. 18, Frye's main purpose here, and I'm surprised how many did not get this correct. His purpose was to persuade us to, first of all, the whole audience to think. Don't you think it's time to start thinking? Pokes at you. It tells you to do something. It's trying to persuade us, not merely inform. And if you found this entertaining, go out and walk in the sun. You need a life. Passage A you had to read, and the best topic here was C, literacy and society. 20, the context clue that's most helpful in figuring out what docile means passive or easily led or taught, was 14, the synonym obedient. Not 14, D, the synonym obedient. 14 people got that wrong. That's what threw me off. The main idea, this is the best main idea, and 6 people got it wrong. I was happy most people did get this. Because society does not put much value on being able to read critically, an individual wants to develop that skill. Let's take it upon himself to do so. And the best tone term here would be concern, B. 22 would be B. I'll be asking you to not just provide tone words in critical analysis, but actually to explain a little bit there. I think of those words, that's the best one. 23, Nicholas Carr, in his Google Making Us Stupid, compares reading to jet skiing and scuba diving. And 24, according to your teacher, I went over this several times, he used information about computer logs documenting the behavior of people using research sites that, and I didn't feel that information he was presenting was even relevant. It wasn't relevant because the way that people read on a research site, skimming, scanning, what I call jet ski reading, is what we've always done researching. We didn't need the internet to make us read that way. In fact, it's a good reading strategy at that stage of the research process. You're just skimming, scanning, trying to determine if something can be used, and that's exactly what one should be doing there. 25, in the selection, use all your senses. Dual coding refers to C, laying down more than one memory trace. you had to use a definition or use a dictionary, and there were problems with that on the next assignment I'll discuss. But the best definition was D, and you can look at that carefully later if you want. 27, the definition, in the definition there are these crazy symbols, and you'll see that. That's the etymology. That's information about where the word came from is what etymology is. Part B, you had to read this piece. And D, this was about typing in childhood. The prefix always means the opposite. Change the word to the opposite. And 30, the one that contained a minor detail. This would be a minor detail. This C is the minor detail. You'll notice this is an example. Remember, minor details are examples. More about that later. Or examples are minor detail. Excuse me. After reading this passage, the reader thinks of consequences or effects of this information. The reader is in this E, recognizing implications. This little section here, you had to identify if it was vague, etc. 32, they slept together only once, and she still became pregnant, is euphemistic. It's obvious that they weren't just sleeping together, and that's a polite way of saying that they copulated. You have 33, it was quite short. That is A, vague. 34 is D. The undergo career reassignment is a very good example of doublespeak. Visiting relatives can be boring. That's ambiguous. And this kind of thing won't be on the final, but you might speak to this kind of language in the critical analysis in your essay. We'll get to that later. 36, sadly, when he returned home, he found his beloved aunt had gone to a better place. And I was kind of shocked how many people didn't get that, because that is my least favorite euphemism you might remember from class. So that is euphemistic. Part 2, you needed to use Gordon Marino's piece here. And this kind of thing will rear its head again, so to speak, as you write the subsequent papers. And what I'm going to do is actually open another file. Looks like I'm running out of time. We'll finish this on the next video. Okay, thank you.